And finally, section 4 is a more in-depth look at visual learning strategies. Now really here, we've touched on a lot of these already, and really here it's just a nod again to the fact that the toolkit will come with its own training pack in the next couple of weeks. But meanwhile, while you're wanting a first thought about the business of including a pupil with Down syndrome, this section here I really wanted to just kind of flag up 5 top tips. First of all, to set tasks which target core literacy skills pretty much across the curriculum. The toolkit comes with a separate chapter, if you like, on numeracy, on maths work, but largely across the curriculum to come at differentiation and planning for access from the perspective of, first of all, targeting their sight reading. What are the core words, which core vocabulary is central to this lesson or this unit of work? Let's start with those. Lots and lots of matching, of sentence building, of labelling, of closed procedure tasks and categorisation tasks to help familiarise them with the way that core vocabulary looks in print, the way it sounds when you read it out loud, the sorts of images that it might match up to. Those sorts of activities can really build the pupil's capacity to read those words by sight. So you're coming at that as a first step to all units. Secondly, it's that message again to avoid multitasking, to remember that we're looking for activities to enable them effectively to do their thinking physically, kinesthetically, visually, and then setting writing as a follow-up task where you're literally just asking them to focus on handwriting, on letter formation. Thirdly, to support sentence composition visually and kinesthetically, that extended writing, planning a paragraph or even a sentence for lots of pupils at top juniors and low secondary ages is problematic, is a challenge. So to come at that physically and kinesthetically, and there are ways and approaches and strategies within the toolkit to support that too. Fourthly, to set tasks which enable pupils to show you what they know, to show you what they understand without having to write it down. Goes back to the business of avoiding multitasking, to come at those in alternative means. And finally, to find those social ways in to complex whole class content. So the toolkit will break all of that down again. We've touched on all of that in this pack of training. So for now, those are the kind of 5 headlines to think about, to start to unpick. There's some further examples there of other templates within the toolkit and how they might be used. Just a few photographs of those in practice to get you thinking about all of that. And an example as well of a more analytical task, a Year 10 history lesson about Weimar Germany, where the pupils as a class were being asked to analyse a series of events in terms of whether they helped or hindered the rise of the Nazi Party. Hugely challenging task for a Year 10 pupil with Down syndrome, but what we did for her is to write those separate components onto individual post-it notes and to have her physically move them around, and to think about those in a much more kinesthetic way, to then work with a peer partner to follow that up, to have a chat, so that the experience for her was much more successful, much less text heavy, and not about showing what she knew in writing, first of all. So to show you that even complex content, even at Key Stage 4, can be made accessible using these principles. It's all about freeing up memory space. It's all about looking at a task and trying to really unpick, am I asking the pupil with Down syndrome to do 2 things at once here? And if so, how can I break those up? And finally, the last word really is that another really, really important way of scaffolding learning and scaffolding access for pupils with Downs, again, is nothing new, but it's incredibly effective. And that's to support self-guided study with task planners. That could be very simple handwritten checklists written by a TA on an individual whiteboard for pupils to work through and check off. It could be there's formal task planners in the toolkit that staff can print off and laminate and have in the toolkit with them to write on. But being enabled to see the steps involved for the next 20 minutes is incredibly empowering when you haven't got a reliable ability to hold on to that information in your memory when it's just delivered verbally. So to see it, to see yourself progressing through a task, means that you get a sense that this is a finite chunk of your life. Without that, a lesson can seem interminable if you've got no real sense of time passing, which is very commonly the case for kids with Down syndrome. So it's a really easy way for TAs to offer support that's not their physical presence, to just summarise the next steps for the next 15 minutes. Here's the things you're going to be asked to do, tick them off when you've finished. That needs attention to build that habit of self-checking, self-marking. But once you've got that habit established, it makes a huge difference to the pupils with Down syndrome in terms of their capacity to self-steer through the lesson and to remain engaged and focused. So lots of information on those slides to support you with all of that. You're very, very welcome to follow this up with a live Q&A session. So as Senkos, if you want to get in touch and book a slot for a live Teams meeting or Zoom, whichever you prefer, and we can have a live session of Q&A for you to unpick this and ask any further questions. But for now, take a look through those slides, and I hope you found this useful. Good luck and see you soon.